Hello and welcome back. It's Scott. New topic. Bitcoin plunges 12%, which is not crazy for Bitcoin, but it is quite a bit, and especially for someone that was a positive advocate for quite a while, Elon Musk, tweeting out that Tesla will not accept it as payment. Now, why would they not accept it as payment? They definitely said they wanted to have it on their balance sheet as an asset, but they don't want to use it for transactions because they ultimately are saying it's using too much energy. Now, I'm not sure if that makes sense, but one thing that is true is automakers have been moving towards newer technologies and more chip-based printed circuit board based technologies. Just think about this like it's the Intel processor, but it's the Intel processor for a specific car, right? In this case, Tesla have their own self-driving, probably quite a few processors. In this case, this one was made by Samsung, while Volvo's using an NVIDIA. But we're going from a general purpose and a compute-based processor to a very specifically designed processor for the purpose of either driving or visualizing data as they're doing this full self-driving. So how does that relate to Bitcoin? Well, as GPUs keep going up in price, we're seeing an increase in pretty much across the board standard boards, but then that's even driving, as the prices of GPUs and CPUs go up, there's a movement towards other types of boards, specific application-specific integrated circuit boards. This just means a circuit board that has one purpose, one application. In some cases, crypto mining, where instead of having a computer, which is very expensive, or maybe your graphics card, which has been pushed up, they are using a specific card, a specific microprocessor to do the mining. Now, as they do that, the question is, how is that really bad for the environment, or how is that using so much energy? Well, I think, number one, there is a little bit of a conflict here with using integrated circuit boards and how that relates to self-driving and how that relates to Tesla's use of it, which that's just manufacturing capability now is competing with Bitcoin. So in some ways, it's a competitor driving prices up. But why is it so processor intensive? Why is he saying that the energy is so inefficient, or the mining is so inefficient in Bitcoin? For that, we're going to need to look at what it's actually doing. So Bitcoin uses, in the background, SHA, it's pronounced SHA 256. That just means there's 256 bits that they have as an encoded signature. Pretty much just think about it like a puzzle. And it's a very large puzzle. And these machines, all these cryptocurrencies, in order to show that work was done in order to mine or in order to process, they actually solve this SHA 256 problem. Now, the SHA 256 problem then requires a ton of effort in order to actually get that done. This can be seen here, where SHA 256 was actually made by the US government. The NSA actually created it in order to protect sensitive information. So it's an extremely secure way of dealing with information, probably more secure than any cryptocurrency really needs. However, that's what they're using, and that's what's being solved. A way of looking at this is if you were to just guess randomly how to crack this encryption, you would have to guess 2 to the power of 256, which that is a ridiculously large number, attempts to get that data. And by that time, typically the key or something else has changed, which means it's extraordinarily hard to solve, which means that computer is, in order to solve it in any reasonable amount of time, would have to work extraordinarily fast and use a ton of processing power, which equates to energy, and that's not really an efficient transaction. This could be why the power usage or the relationship between mining and power is being brought up so much. So, what are alternatives? Well, there are other algorithms other than the SHA-256 that other cryptocurrencies, such as the number 2 in market cap cryptocurrency, Ethereum, it uses this ET hash, which ideally is a little less intensive, but it's intended to achieve ASIC resistance by being IO bound. Now, that's really fancy for saying it's trying to reduce how much input and output is going on to make memory reads the limiting factor in mining process. So that means it's more about how fast your RAM is and its ability to read and write than how fast your processor is, which would move away some of the emphasis on CPUs and GPUs and actually put more effort into the actual RAM speed itself. So each one of these cryptocurrencies, as you notice or will notice here, are actually forcing effort to be done to improve certain areas of computing. In the case of SHA-256, it's actually moving towards breaking SHA-256, which may not be a positive thing overall. Well, in the case of Ethereum, well, they're moving things towards improving RAM, which may make more sense because we will need more caching over time, solid state drives, etc. That is a positive thing for society, while breaking SHA-256 probably is not, as most of our applications and our internet connections are secured by it. Scripty is another algorithm popularized by a meme coin, Dogecoin. Now, it actually was Dogecoin forked off of, or branched, or taken from Bitcoin originally. However, with this one main exception, they made the decision intentionally to not use 256. Scripty is simpler and quicker than 256, so it naturally makes sense instead of using things in huge amounts of hashes or huge amounts of processing, that maybe you use a lot less processing and just prove just enough. One thing is it requires large amounts of memory, so this can be either written or it couldn't be in your RAM. In both cases, that does improve the ability for processing to hopefully move a little bit more towards the side of short-term storage and making things quicker, and not necessarily, and again, breaking 256, which that has implications that have to do with security again. And it's cool because it can be used for CPUs, GPUs, and there are some actual applications of ASIC cards and hardware that actually work with it. So there are ways of using the whole plethora of hardware that's available. Moving down the line, as you can see, there are just numerous of these, and their hash rates can increase substantially depending on which coin they are. And in many cases, if you were to do any part of the billion or so transactions that are likely done within a day, it would make sense that you would want something that's very quick, that's very light, and ultimately can be still trusted. In this case, this crypto night, which is just kind of punny, depends on all previous blocks for each new block, which basically means it needs the past as well as the current information in order to actually verify something. So that could be good, that could be bad. It may require a lot more space in order to process in that case. So it's like if you're looking at every chain of all the transactions forever, that might not be a realistic thing. But as you can see, there's even more here. This one specifically favors GPU miners. This one is actually a older version of the 256 is actually one type of SHA algorithm. It's using the same algorithm. This one's just a little older. X11 is actually pretty interesting because it's actually caring about efficiency. So it's intentionally trying to be energy efficient. It requires 30% less wattage and runs 30 to 50% cooler than they do with Scripty, which means that this is even more energy efficient than Dogecoin. So things like Dash may be a better transactional crypto, while things like Bitcoin do not make a great transactional crypto because the more you force those transactions to happen, the more energy you're using on just trying to secure that network. Likewise, from X11, there's also X15. There's quite a few of these, but they do very similar things, and they have different, or you can even have a plethora of different hashing algorithms that go into these. But as you can see, there is a menagerie of different crypto encryptions and algorithms, not really encryptions, but algorithms that are being used. And ultimately, each one of them has different energy usages, which ultimately pushes towards different resources, which the computer supply chain is trying to appeal to. And each cryptocurrency is like a vote for that operation. So if you're voting that I want faster RAM and I want faster accessing power, that's one thing. If you're voting for I want SHA-256 to be cracked faster and my internet to be less secure, that's another thing. So each one of them is kind of a vote along with you're affecting those supply chains. So groups such as auto manufacturers are definitely influenced because of the use of their manufacturers and their supply chains to be mining crypto. That there may be a conflict of interest between them getting new products out and the payment system by which they actually get paid. So I want to thank you very much, and remember to subscribe and like.